How do you live a Christian life in this very day and age? This is part 2 of that discussion. In part 1, I just started to introduce you with that concept, but I left you with a very simple scripture from Deuteronomy 30th, chapter 19. Verse 19, chapter 30th, verse 19. And there is, we're told about God. And in that part, and for those who have not met me, before I go further, I want to introduce myself. My name is Alpha Mshihiri, and it is such a pleasure and a joy to be able to be with you in this very brief moment that we're having this discussion. And it is my joy. I consider myself as a life explorer, but it is my joy to be able to explore life through the scripture and take those things by unveiling the scripture with its mysteries so that you can partake, I can share with you, and you can partake of its spiritual value as a tools and resources that afford you to create a happier and more meaningful life experience. In the last chapter, in a part 1 of this series, I introduce you a scripture from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. And in that verse, we hear that God is speaking. And God is telling us that he said today, so this day, not yesterday, not the day before, not tomorrow, today. So it means it's a present tense. Today, I have given you. So you have been given. Today, you have been given. I have given you choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. And now I call heaven and earth to witness the choice you make, or that you choose life, so that you and your descendant may live. NLV. That's the source I'm quoting the scriptures from. The beginning of this, we are starting, remember I mentioned 3 things. I mentioned you have to choose life, you have to choose happiness, and you have to choose you. Because all these 3 things are encoded in this very scripture. And that's why you have to choose these things, because at the end, you will be able to live, and your descendants, and we'll talk about what that means. And people have taken it in one way or the other. The measure of the scripture, it's not about its interpretation or how you are wowed about it. The measure of a scripture is if you can take that scriptures and outline actionable items that actually will help you to transform your life. Every scripture is powered with, or it's endowed with that capacity. Not a single one can, each one of them, if you take that scriptures, you can connect the others, and actually you can outline measurable action or actionable items that if you apply those items, it is a sure thing at some point in your life you will experience transformation. So when you people are telling me do this, do that, if those things cannot be actionable, you cannot give me actionable item from that scripture, and I can actually measure its results, then something is wrong with that interpretation. And each scripture in this text called this Bible, or any other holy books of this world, cannot contradict one another. Because the writers had a very good sense, have a better understanding. They were inspired from within. But if you read the scripture and you find that it contradicts or it raises questions to the other scripture, then you know you're somewhere not balanced. But today, we are examining this very simple process. I want to start with a very personal story. In 2000, it was a year maybe 2000, 2001 or 2, I can't remember exactly, because it's been some time ago. I was working as a consultant for one of the major mortgage company at the time. And not go far, it was Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. And they had a product that was very popular at the time. It's called 3-step processing, 3-step refinancing. That was the name of the program. The intent behind it, there will be only 3 steps a borrower or homeowner will undergo in order to refinance their home. And there were other benefits to the program and everything else. So I was brought in. That program was just rolled out and it was like fire. I mean, they were closing refinance loans like crazy using that program. But then they realized they were building the bridge as they were crossing, and they needed somebody to actually look and make sure, or an engineer who will come and say, listen, I think whether you're doing right or what need to be improved in order to make sense of what they were doing. They weren't thinking of that. They were just excited about what was happening. So I was called, among other people, to go there. And those days, they used to call them business system analyst. And my job was to actually study the program, understand the laws behind and regulations that supports that programs, and understand the business process that is being implemented to see how it can either be improved, corrected, changed, whatever the case, in order to bring consistency with other programs that are within Wells Fargo as well as with the law. And I was there. I was excited because it's an exciting opportunity. Who will not be excited for that challenge? And I gave all I could. So one day while I was working there, we were told, the director of the department that it was a new department was put together, and the director of the department said, you know what, we've been doing an amazing job. I'm getting good feedback, and my ranking, my VP is very happy of what we're doing. But I want to challenge you. It's a small team. We're probably a team of 4 people. He said, I want to challenge you. We're going to have a celebration. I'm going to celebrate people who have done an exceptional job. But in this celebration event, I want each and one of you to come about and do a presentation about your understanding, your perspective, your view of this program as a whole. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So all this time we were just kind of putting down the fires. And now we're given an opportunity to present a solution going forward. So I was like, that's very interesting. So in the process of putting down the fire, I had learned a lot. I had identified a lot of other things. And some of the things I had shared with my project manager. So in this meeting, I mean, people presented, everybody else, and I did my presentation. Of course, everybody else was talking how beautiful, how wonderful this program is, and they were bringing numbers and to support. Of course, Wells Fargo at that time, they were doing exceptionally well through that program in the area of refinancing. But I took a different approach. I didn't see what the other 3 people were doing. But in my approach, I said we were supposed to talk about improvement, talk about issues that we've discovered through the process, because that's what actually we were brought there. But we were kind of turning down the fires because there was too many fires to put down. And I took a presentation. I said, okay, this is the process. I draw the process from how the loan enters, it comes to the Wells Fargo hands, and it goes through the end of the process. And I said, this process, and I identify some areas that actually, because the whole process was supposed to take within 30 days. But now some loans were staying over 60 days. Of course, customers were just excited about getting the deals and benefit they were getting from that package. I cannot disclose how the package was put together because it's not my place and this is not the purpose of it. But those packages, the way it was put in, it was the first time any lenders have ever done something to that nature. So therefore, borrowers were just exciting and they were just flooding the market. They didn't care whether it takes 60 days or not. But the longer it was taking, it was costing Wells Fargo more money. So I came up with a solution. I said, this is the process. And these are the bottleneck that we're experiencing. And these processes were a result of these other things. So identify all the weakness areas and what need to be done in order to improve. And the director of the department was very impressed. In fact, he gave me an award, the highest award among all the other members. So I was like, wow, this is great. It's kind of this little purple ribbon. And I was like, wow, I got my purple ribbon. And I was just exciting and celebrating. And I took it with me. I went home. I was feeling extremely amazing. I'm like, wow, my hard work pays. It was Friday. Saturdays, I received a call from the agency that actually placed me there. So Alpha, we have some news. I got a call from your project manager today, and she mentioned the name. I said, oh yeah, I know her. She's like, I'm apologizing, or I'm sorry that you will not be able to go back to work on Monday. I said, why will I not go? What happened? She's like, I don't know. She just said that you can't go, and actually you're not even allowed to get into the building. somebody, if you have things in your desk, one of us will go and pick it up for you, and we will tell you when we have it. And I'm like, what going on? She's like, I don't think if it's anything bad, it's just that they just want to maybe do attrition, just reduce the number of people in the team. I said, they just hired somebody, and I'm spending 2 months training, a month about training this person, and the person is not ready yet. And she said, I don't know. So after having a conversation, she eventually kind of just discussed. She said, you know what? I think you presented something, your project manager felt like you presented something, and you didn't consult her, and that didn't look good for her, and therefore you're not a very good team player. I said, I gave the presentation about a day before I presented. Whether she looked at it or not, I don't know. And the director had asked us to put together something. It wasn't her ask. We were asked by the director. But anyway, I lost that job. So I was very saddened because we just moved from one house to another house. And our mortgage was doubled. That where we moved from, we were paying about $1,200. And where we moved to, we were paying almost like $2,000 and some change. So suddenly I have this responsibility, and I don't have the income to accord for that. So it was devastating, like for anybody it will be. And as I was contemplating, I didn't want to tell my wife. And Monday comes, of course I can't go. I didn't want to tell her because I wanted to add a burden, but over the weekend we had the discussions eventually. I said, listen, man, but don't worry. I told her, don't worry. Let me just get this first week to think about what I need to do. There are a lot of jobs I can get and everything else. I've learned a lot through that project. Let me see what I need to do in order to grow. And we ended up that conversation. Monday she went to work and I was home. She comes home and she said, honey, I don't know what kind of water we drank or what food we ate, but today there was an incident at work. She used to work as a NA, nursing, registered nurse, I don't know, nursing assistant or something like that, NA or something. I forgot the titles back those days. She said there was an incident at work. Somebody was mistreating a resident. And when she walked in and witnessed it, and the person was an LPN or was a nurse. So she just kind of was like amazed, why you are the person who need to take care of these patients with care, and we need to learn from you. And she didn't say that, but that's what was in her mind. But then she couldn't just keep that because the person was beating the patient. So she questioned that. She questioned the person, and the person had an attitude. By law, when you witness such an event, you have to report. So she took it to the HR and just kind of figured out she was asking for advice. But not knowing that the person in HR she spoke to was a very good friend with that person who actually acted in that manner. So eventually she was told that it is not true that that nurse actually did what she saw she did. She said the nurse must have been doing something else. And my wife was like, no, I'm not in a habit of reporting things or making up story. I've never done before. So for me to be able to bring that information, definitely must be because I've saw something. And the HR people were not very happy of her insistence of what she observed. They were trying to help her change her mind. But when they realized they couldn't, and she didn't know that was the case, because when she told me the story, I said, oh, that's what they were trying to do. They wanted you to change your mind, and since you didn't, guess what? The best option is to fire her. Because if they fire her and she goes and complains about it, she's going to look like she's doing so out of like retaliation or something. So her words will not have any credibility. And she was actually trying to say, I'm going to sue them. I said, no, honey, listen, we don't have the money, neither the time to do that now. We need to focus on rebuilding our life where we are. So there we are, two broke people with unemployed, with a hefty mortgage and full of responsibilities. And we had some saving, but it was not enough. It wouldn't go that long. As I pondered, I decided I had a choice. I could feel as a victim, and both me and my wife would sit there and complain about how life is unfair, how things are unfair. And it's truly that seems unfair. Unfair that my project manager decided that I should go because of her own insecurity. Well, it was unfair for my wife, where her employer, her HR person, decided to protect her friend in expense of my wife. And therefore we were deprived of the income that we could have had, or that we were having to sustain or support all our responsibilities. So I had a choice in that moment. I had a choice either to feel as a victim and join a victim party, and me and my wife actually will be having a very big party. Both of us, we were victimized in some sense. Or we were to transform ourselves into a different experience. The choice was there. Just like most of you are facing the same choice, maybe at this very moment. A choice to look at your circumstances and sympathize with your situation and feel as if you're a victim because somebody did this. And yes, somebody did it, that's a fact. But do you want to dwell your life? You want to take every day, the precious air you breathe, the beautiful weather that you have, all that life offers, just become a victim so you can lose focus and not enjoy all of that? The choice is yours.